Hello, and welcome back to Practical Product Management. This is a podcast entirely about how there's lots of great theory about product management, but product management is really done in context. Like, what is your company? Who do you work with? What are you doing? What season is your product in? And so that's what we're going to talk about. Today, our guest is Sunny, and I'm super excited because I used to work with her, and now we hang out, and I coach her, and there's a lion in my lap. Sorry. Excuse me. Well, would you like to climb into the... Okay, well, let's just sit there. Hi, Sunny. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, and hello, Oliver. Oh, my goodness. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Sunny Lee. I head up experience design, but I started my design career in the games industry in the Bay Area way back when UX was not even a term in the game industry. I think I was a GUI designer, so graphical user interface designer. But even then, I was really drawn in terms of how design could help players feel confident and build agency in people. So I spent several years at EA Sports, another smaller developer in the Bay, leading design across both high-profile AAA annual titles and faster-moving live service games. After my son was born, I made a purpose-driven shift into health tech, and this is where I met you, Leah. A pinnacle moment of my life, honestly. And then it really helped deepen my understanding working at Dig, really about emotional clarity and trust and really impact and not just usability and not in just kind of the entertainment space. Yeah. So eventually I returned to EA and I worked across global studios where I scaled experience design as a craft. That meant UX, UI, and what we call XT tech design. To really align the craft more with live service, with product outcomes like engagement, retention KPIs, and then I joined a smaller circle of studios, and then even smaller, just to get closer to the product versus being in a more central organization. To head up experience design for a studio called Full Circle, and working on a game called Skate, which is an open world sandbox game. Which I'm really excited about because it launched a couple weeks ago, and was really about kind of growing that team, partnering closely with product management, engineering, creative as well, because there's such a massive creative component and entertainment component to it, and engineering, and really about for this product Skate itself is trying to balance kind of the authenticity of skate culture, making it approachable, and helping players feel confident and creative from the start. So that's me in a nutshell.
Love it.
I love it. Whenever anybody says me in a nutshell, it reminds me of that Austin Powers movie where he's like, it's me in a nutshell. Do you remember? All right. Sorry about that. I wildly diverged. So super excited to meet you, Sunny. I love what you do. I think it speaks to my family's heart and my heart. We're big gamers over here. So
thank you.
So welcome. I'm really curious about a couple things, but first of all, I think what do people misunderstand about the game industry and what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there is a misunderstanding that sometimes it's this vortex, or there's kind of an addictive component where people just kind of tunnel vision into it and lose hours of their lives. I've heard of, people being certain game widows because they lose their husbands or partners for a game. But I think this emergence and this new generation of players, what I'm seeing and what I love about it is this kind of opportunity to connect on a human level. There's social connection. There is an opportunity to cooperate and collaborate. It's not all about competition and shooting each other, especially in a product like Skate or a game like Skate. People are coming to just hang out and have fun and do things, and nothing is more beautiful than people coming together to play, right? It is an essential component of the human experience, but we don't do enough play. Yeah.
It's funny. I think sometimes people don't realize the addictive nature of almost everything, and maybe also the news cycle and Reddit and everything else we scroll on an hourly basis is just as addictive as something like gaming, which does have that community connectivity element to it instead of polarizing attributes. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for that. I'm excited that you're here.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
It's very cool. I was wondering about do you feel like that there are enough diverse voices in gaming in general? Does it kind of depend on the type of game? What does that look like?
I think it's gotten a lot better. I do think that it could be more diverse, most definitely. And I think you're seeing it more because I had a great leader once who said, the games look like the game makers or feel like the game makers, right? And I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's for the vast majority of my career, it has been a very male dominated industry. And for the most part, like, I think I've had a relatively positive experience, but I'm also a tomboy at heart. And in my mind, good or bad, I'm just like, without being masculine or changing myself, I'm like, oh, I'm just one of the guys, or I just don't even, like, for the most part, I've had the fortune of working with really great folks. There are certain instances where I have a stark realization. I'm like, oh, wow, I am the only woman in this room of 50 men. And it becomes a very kind of clear realization. But yes, it's getting better and it can always improve.
Yeah.
And we've both seen that in our career, Leah, which, sorry, it makes me laugh because it's almost, I think you forget that you're the only whatever in a room full of other people that are a little more homogenous until something happens. And then you're like, oh, crap. And some of our earliest like alliance moments, I don't want to say alliance moments, like it's some like secret, like reality TV show alliance moment, but it kind of was.
We would have kicked them off the island if they would have let us.
100%. We had already voted them off the island. We just didn't have the guy that bounced them.
Exactly.
But like some of our earliest alliance moments were like, I see you not getting space at the table. I see you not being able to voice something. How can I like stop the combo and say, listen, can you let her finish? Or I'm interested in what she has to say. Or, oh, by the way, didn't she just say that 2 minutes ago?
Right. Her lips still moving. Please stop.
That was you. You're braver than me.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, do you see that person's lips still moving? Stop talking. I will say one of my favorite moments at Amazon, like favorite and sort of sad, was when I made some comment in one of my teams about that it annoyed me that if I was in the bathroom too long, the lights went off. And the men on my team were like, what? And I was like, if you go in there for very long, the lights will turn off. And they're like, it's never happened. And we then realized that there just weren't enough women on the floor that went into the ladies' room, that the lights would go off while you were in there going to the bathroom if you didn't move around enough. But they didn't have that experience because there was always another dude in the bathroom.
Wow.
They didn't even know the lights were on a timer. Right? And I was like, wait a minute. What do you mean? And they're like, what do you mean? And I think there's so many times when we experience that as women in tech and probably lots of industries, right? Where you're just like, oh, you don't know what this is like. And I sometimes think like there are also moments when as a white woman, I've been in a room and thought, oh, that's my friend. He's the only black person in this room.
Yeah.
Right. Or, whatever. And you're just like, oh, yeah. Okay. Well, there's another only in the room, not just me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super, super, super interesting. So when you think about like something like skate, and I mean, you tell us what you can tell us, but like, obviously I would assume, being a California girl from back in the day when skating culture was such a big deal, I would assume that in a game like skate, and currently, certainly in the times we're living in now, there's a lot of need for the players to be fairly diverse, maybe androgynous, maybe, have a little bit more room for people to express themselves however they want. How have you guys thought about that from a game perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with even like how you build your character, right? And making sure that those options are available and that there's a range, right? And it was interesting because we went through this whole research study of like trying to assess the audience, because we've been having this dialogue with our players all along the way as we've been building and trying to co-develop essentially this game to make sure, A, that because this took about 15 years to come back. There was a previous skate title and then 15 years, and the real hardcore kind of fans brought it back. So we had to ensure that there was no tissue rejection from that base.
Right.
As well as modernize it and realize it's in the Olympics now. Girls are skating more than ever. And we're talking about countries like Japan and Brazil, where they're like really hot in terms of like skateboarding culture. So we started off with like our character creator and making sure that we had a range of presets to start that reflected at least a diverse set of players, right? Ranging from, what you would maybe view as a typical male player to somebody who is more petite and small and very kind of maybe wiry to everything in between, so you could make somebody who is very androgynous to somebody who's hyper feminine to hyper masculine as well. So that was at least the starting point. And then I think it's really about giving freedom. And we've been trying to index as much on self-expression in the game as possible. So it's interesting because you could have two people play, and one of our creative directors was saying like they were playing with somebody who was in a different room, but could tell that they had switched controllers just by the way that they were moving around in the world. Right. So that's the other thing in terms of like, there's physical diversity, but there's also diversity as kind of an individual, and creating those avenues as much as we can.
Interesting. What was the most surprising thing that you learned? So, like, we didn't really talk about your superpowers and your background, but you sort of really sit at this intersection of designing software for humans and making things like not just beautiful. Like, design is not just pixels; it's way more than that. So, if you want to tell us a little bit about your journey there, but then what was some of the most surprising things you learned as you were bringing this game back after a 15-year sort of like refresh?
Yeah. I mean, I think, and maybe that's kind of the core of some of the design principles. There is kind of a disparity in terms of what people say versus how they interact with the product as well, right? It's like what you want and what you think you need are kind of two different spaces. And that was also kind of repeated through this process. And for me, my background has been really about like understanding where players are coming from, where users generally or people are coming from, how they think about things, and ensuring that the key focus, at least for this, was to make sure that things were approachable and things were understood in a way that they could be built on, right? You weren't just kind of throwing a bunch of things to learn at once. You were kind of growing your understanding of both how to play, but what it meant to be in this context, and then having a great deal of empathy around how are they coming and how can we meet them where they are in terms of like, because there's going to be different people. There are going to be people who are going to be hyper competitive and I just want to go in my corner, do my thing. And there are going to be other people who are like, I have no idea where to start. And so those are the people I like gravitate towards and go, hey, come on over. Let me hold your hand, but not too much, because I don't want to make you feel like a baby. I just want you to be able to do your thing and show you around and ultimately play this kind of role of invisible host. Right. And make them feel confident in terms of like, oh, there's a room here and there's a room here and there's something I can check out, and give them the, I guess, the stepping stones to get to what they want to do.
It's very cool. How I know a little bit, but how did you end up deciding to get into this career and down this path?
Yeah, I almost kind of fell into it, to be honest. So I have a kind of, I like to say I took the scenic route to my career. I have and that's just generally my life. I take the long route whenever I can and play my life on hard mode. So I have a degree in political science. I got out of school and I was just like, I don't think this is my thing. My dad's like, come and join the family business. And I'm like, cool. I have no idea. So maybe that's a worthy time. The family business is traditional Asian medicine. So I spent a stint of doing acupuncture and herbology for a little bit, realized 6 months in, this is not my thing. Went back to school, did digital design, thought I was going to be a web designer. My sister was living in the Bay, had a connection. He wanted somebody who was like a web designer, but to work in the games industry. And that's how it all kind of started. It's just certain things kind of lined up.
You accidentally fell into it. Luckily, you just didn't have a needle in your hand when you.
I know that would have been dangerous. Yeah. Yeah, I
Like,
would have
ow,
destroyed some pixels.
tap, tap. You
I
know,
know.
tap.
It's like,
Yeah, it's. I think that's so. that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't think that. I think there are so many people who think that what we do somehow you just like woke up knowing that in order to have been successful and gotten to this stage at this point in our lives, that somehow we just woke up and we're like, I know exactly what I want to do. And meanwhile, I was an accountant and you did what you just described and Marilyn did what she's done. And it's like, no, you don't just wake up one day. And I think some people do, I guess, but I don't even know if most people do, even in the software industry at all, like wake up and go, you know what I want to be. Maybe there are some people who are like, I want to be an engineer. But I think even most of the men and women who are engineers that are our age, because we're all roughly the same age, are like, they just kind of fell into it or found it or fell in love with it along the way. They didn't say, I want to be a whatever Java developer, and like,
so true. So
that.
true.
I think most of the people that we've talked to on here, and most people I've met that are very successful, have this combination of empathy. Like they really want to understand the user, or the player, or whoever you're working with on the other side of whatever screen. You want to understand with some degree of fidelity who they are, what their needs are, what they want, what their problems are, and then you want to solve those problems with technology because you love what technology can bring. And whether that's through like any of the crafts, engineering or product management or design or any of those things, that's kind of the core of how people end up here.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Do you feel like, Sunny, that like there is more conflict with product management and design, or more similarity or kind of collaboration with, and maybe it's different in different environments, but where do you think that is on the spectrum of getting together and making something happen?
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, it's been very collaborative, right? And product management has been actually quite a relatively new role in the games industry as well, because we used to be very much box products. It's like we made a game, we put it out in the world, we sold it for a certain price, but now it is very much like software as a service. We're constantly on, we're making updates. It's never the end. And so even leading up to it, I've had a very wonderful relationship with product management. It felt like a logical partnership because we're both trying to do our best for who we're trying to provide service to, right? And so I think the only points of tension is like really around like, and this isn't just in my world, is just really around how much do we index on over indexing on, like, player needs are always important, but there's also a business aspect and understanding that we need to keep the lights on, right? And so what is that happy medium? So there have been points of tension where, like, I'll give you one example. I was reading a Reddit thread around somebody's just like, and then the free stuff is at the bottom of the list and people have to scroll down and like it's a dark UI pattern. And I'm like, that hurt my heart. And I was just like, but at the same point, it's like you can still access it. It doesn't take you much time to get to it. And so this is a balance we had to make in order to kind of at least give some visibility and, hey, this is what else is available to you. I still think that we agree upon the value that it provides at least, right? But as well as from a business perspective, like what also can we continue to do to generate whatever we need to do to keep the lights on? So yeah, I've been really lucky. I've worked with some great product management folks, and it's been a wonderful partnership. So yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Marilyn, what do you think? What's been your best experience in working with design from a product perspective?
I mean, I am such a big advocate for the role and how it's like not just pixels on a screen. It's not just pixels on a screen. So I think you just sort of said it really well. In my head, and in the simplest possible way. If you're the product manager, if the user doesn't want it and won't pay for it, then like you're at fault. If it doesn't scale or if it's not stable, then it's the engineers at fault. And if the user isn't delighted and isn't immersed in the best possible way, and I either mean like it's invisible. And you said something like the invisible host a little bit earlier, and I actually love that, and I'm stealing it. Sorry, Sunny. Either in an invisible host sort of way or in a very visible, like, I love this environment that I'm in, like that sort of immersion, that sort of like speaking to the emotion of the person. That's all about what I would think it falls in the bucket of design user research. I think it's so much more than pixels. And I think a lot of people misunderstand the intention of the role. And they're like, well, just, we're going to hire someone to come in and make the chart pretty. And it's like, it's not really about that. Yes, you can do that and you'll have a nice pretty chart, but you're missing the whole point of the job family and the value it can deliver to your product, and like the stickiness and what people want to do with it. And, you said something about dark UI patterns, which I think is really funny too, because I'm a big fan of like pointing them out and like being upfront and not collecting data. I don't have to, like, I'm a huge advocate for all of those things, like doing the right thing and don't be an asshole. I don't think putting the free stuff at the bottom is necessarily a dark UI pattern. To your point, no one should be under the illusion that someone putting out a product like this is free. And I think to a lot of degrees, like, people have gotten used to free product, not understanding what they're giving up in return for that product.
Right.
Like, it's your data, it's your privacy. Like, what is the cost? And because someone's just sort of like saying, hey, you can buy this bucket of, in-game money for $9 and putting the free stuff a little bit lower, it's not really as dark as it could be, my friend. And you're kind of missing the whole point of what you're actually really giving up when you're in a free environment. Anyway, so talk to me a little bit more about dark UI patterns and what you've seen work well and like where you will never tread.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, like, I do think it is a value exchange, right? And so with UI patterns, I've been lucky enough where there is no argument. It's not even a conversation around like, are we going to try to do a dark UI pattern? I have seen in other games where I'm like, this is questionable because you're putting even like usability features behind a paywall, which blows my mind, because it is like, okay, you're going to, I mean, I can understand of like removing ads, for example, by paying a certain cost. Okay. Sure. That seems okay. I think where it gets a little, for me, where that kind of line is very hard is where it's impeding enjoyment of the game. It's impeding progression. It's impeding like usability. It's just yeah, it's atrocious, that part. So there is kind of a line that you just don't cross. And like, I avoid dark patterns as like, just steer clear of them. Like, that's just the general rule. It shouldn't be a conversation of like, hey, can we monetize this? And like, that's never come up in my conversations, which I feel fortunate for.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm not much of a gamer, and I never was, but I'll play a game on my phone here and there. And I started I got sucked into some rando game the other day, and I realized, I was like, oh, we have now gotten to the stage where unless I buy something, I can't get over this level. I can't go backwards and I can't go forwards, and there's nothing I can do to play for enough points in order to push myself over. And I was like, well, delete app, right? Like, I'll find another game that I can play for that long, right? And that's like, but I think that there's a notion, and it's, like, if I was it was fun, but if I was having a crazy good time, then I guess I would have paid for it, right? But I was sort of like, well, you've made this level impossible. Yeah. Like, I've tried every which way. Like, I've waited for more lives. I've tried every possible, and I'm like, it's impossible. I have to spend money here. Right. Yes. And I'm like, okay, well, then I'm not going to. Right. And like I said, if there are probably games that I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll spend the money because I want to keep going. Right. But I had invested several hours of my time in getting to that level, and then was like, you suck. Right. So, but like we said, I think one of the things we talk a lot about on this podcast is that yes, product people, product designers, product managers, we love talking about the customer. And so, like, we love the customer. We want to serve the customer. We're customer obsessed. That's all true. And someone has to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So we have to have an understanding of like, okay, how do we do that? And then the question becomes like, how do you, it's important to do it without leaning heavily on dark patterns that cause people to feel like they have to do something versus like, hey, I want to engage in this somehow. Right.
I mean, just like web tracking cookies. Like, let's talk about the dumbest ones. Like the dumbest ones. The amount of crap that people track, that if they really thought about, like, if I just bought candles on your site, don't friggin' cookie me and put your stupid banners all over every other damn website I go to, because I just bought. And if I like your crap, I'll come back and buy more. But oh, by the way, I just blew $200 on fall scented candles. I don't need another few more. Like, I don't care what kind of coupon you're giving me. Give me a fucking break. Understand where I'm coming from. And it actually does make me bitter to the point where I just feel like people aren't thinking about it. They're lazy. They're leaning into these patterns because some person at some, conference said this is the right way to like fill up the top of your funnel with your existing customers. It's just stupidity. And I think if you just slow down a little bit and think about who you're serving and actually understand the context that they're in, you'd realize that you're insulting them. Like, grr.
Fully agree. Because you need to respect people's agency, right? Yes. And that's the key part of it. And if the minute you remove that agency, then it feels really bad.
Yeah. All right, funnest part of your new game.
Yes.
We've got a whole bunch of product managers on this podcast. And so if they were going to log in and check this out, what do you want them to do first?
Well, I would want them to create their character, get all dressed up, and then go and just explore and do, like, because there are things that you can do to like complete challenges and things like that. But there's a whole bunch of other things that you can do. Because like for me, every time I kind of go in and see something new, it is a new thing for me, which I love. And the exploration piece of like, you don't need to just skate on the streets. So the wonderful thing about this game, because it is an open world game, you can climb up a building and at the top you'll find a skate park, for example. You can, because it is fantasy, you can spread eagle down and like fly through the air to get into like a dumpster is one of the challenges. like you just got to navigate the air to get in there, right? And so I would just say go in and see what sticks with you and see what you want to do and just explore and check it out and check out all the other people there, because they'll be wearing a whole bunch of crazy stuff and like doing crazy things. And you can also build like little play areas for yourself to like with your friends to like a mini skate park and things like that. And so there's
like all the boys in my neighborhood who used to build their own fancy skate things in the street. My dad was like, get that stuff out of the street. Like,
it's just plywood and like a bunch of things, like essentially.
So I wonder we didn't all get, like tetanus.
Yes. Mind the nails. So there's no nails in this one, but you can do like, virtual ramps and like garbage cans and like, picnic tables, and like people can actually put down couches and just kind of sit on them. Like there's a variety of different things you can do. So it's just like, go in, check it out, and just, explore.
I feel like, Leah, you and I will have to create our characters, and then that will be the pictures on the advertisement for this podcast.
We totally should. We should all go create a character, and then we'll have Evan put them in as the.
Yes, that can be our smiling faces on the. I
love it.
On the billboard for this. I will definitely go check it out, Sunny. I'm a failed ex-skater. I worked at a skate shop for the majority of my college career, and I've got the scars from being a very bad skater because I just have no coordination, but I tried really hard. So I'll be there.
She did no coordination, but she was also a snowboarder, so she had coordination on soft surfaces.
Not the hard ones. We actually had a half pipe in our backyard, so Friday night got a little bit wild at our house, and
so crazy. That's so awesome. I would love your perspective on it. If it feels like, from your perspective, like authentic to that feeling.
It has been a long time, Sunny. I don't think I'm authentic to that feeling anymore.
Oh my goodness. You never lose. It's like riding a bike, right?
Remember the 80s when every commercial had a granny on a skateboard in it? I feel like that's me. I'm going to be the granny on the skateboard. So it's interesting. I'm just finished reading The Anxious Generation. I don't know if either one of you have
Yes.
read this book.
I
And
started it.
and one of the things that I found really fascinating in there is, I mean, the whole book is really about online, raising our kids online, giving them access online too soon versus play-based. Like, so imagine internet-based play versus in-person play, play-based childhoods. And he uses skating as one of the examples, that part of what you do as a kid is you have fear, and then you take a risk, then you take a bigger risk and a bigger risk and a bigger risk. And he says, like, imagine, he said, for all of the, because is Gen X writing this book, he's like, for all of the Gen Xers reading this book, we got on a skateboard and we were afraid because we would fall and skin our knees or hurt ourselves, and we did. He's like, one of my friends broke his wrist. Like, he talks about it. I also saw him being interviewed about it as well. And he talks about, like, and then we went to the skate park. Then we got on a ramp. Then we did, he's like, everything had a risk because you're teaching kids to overcome fear, to look at each other and learn from each other. You're building community by saying, oh, I see how he did that. Oh, okay. That's interesting, and so older kids helping younger kids. And that, so I thought it was really interesting because when I read it, I thought of you in the game, because obviously we've been talking about it for a while. And just the notion that, like, there is a way to try to combine the fact that kids are online and they are going to be online. How do we also give them safe spaces where they can start to learn some of these things that they might then be like, I think I'm going to get a skateboard for Christmas and go outside, right? And find ways to make those things happen. So I just found it really interesting to think about.
Yeah. That is fascinating, because it is really about building up resilience. And something that we always say in this game even is we're trying to make failure fun, right? And that's the whole idea of having a growth mindset, is like, you're never going to nail that trick on the first try. And if you do, you're really lucky. But, like, it is this kind of like constant repeat until you hit it. And then it makes hitting that trick that much sweeter once you actually are able to do it. It's just a question of, like, it's balance. And I hear you in terms of, like, that, the digital versus the actual physical space, because there's physical pain associated with actual skating, as Marilyn, you must know. And and there's less of the physical pain, but I do think there is probably the same social kind of pressure of, like, people watching you do it, like, and being able to do it, but also getting that encouragement from people. And I mean, there's so many stories of, like, kids at the edge of the lip of a ramp and being cheered on, and everyone celebrating once that happens. And if that could be mirrored in skate, I feel like that's a massive win.
Yeah.
I do love this idea of, obviously, Leah, you were around when my kid was younger, and he had a rough time. Like, he had a rough time in junior high school, in high school. And he, like, again, we're kind of big gamers in this house. And there was a long time when he had a really hard time connecting with people in real life. But he had this really rich network of friends in video games. And at the time, I didn't really understand it too much. I made the mistake of thinking, like, he's like falling into games, or, he's getting sucked into the rat hole, not really sort of taking the time to understand that some of the relationships he was building are, like, real and durable.
Yeah.
And not like weird, 40-year-old men and 13-year-old boy relationships, like peer relationships. And to this day, like, he's almost 30. Some of those friends are still his best friends, and he met them after years, or in some cases, like, he never really met them in real life. But they went through things together, and he was able to share and connect on a level that he wasn't able to in person. And I think that, the places where you're free to have a human connection, and where it is authentic, I think like, people are kind of, for some reason, it's easier for people to be jerks online. Like, no one's usually going to run up and, like, scream, I hate your mother, or something to your face. But, like, people are really awful to each other online. But those safe spaces for people to connect, I think, are really important, whether they're at the skate park or online. So I appreciate that. How do you guys curate that? How, like, what have you built into the game to try to like build that safe space for people to connect?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've been very mindful of opening because I think there's a beauty in communication, but there's also a danger in communication. And
Mhm.
so there's been a double-edged sword. So we've rolled out our communication tools in a very kind of thoughtful, slow way. So, for example, like you can't chat with anyone until they're actually within your party, for example. So they're your friends, first of all, so they've already qualified, and then you've created a party, and then you can do voice chat. So there's kind of mechanisms. And then with the games industry, and particularly I think like League of Legends and Riot does it really well around moderating and reporting people who are bad players or bad participants essentially, and catching those early, but also reinforcing almost like like a internalized code of ethics with amongst the players around like, this is the expectation here, this is why we're here. And similarly, like we don't condone this behavior, and like there is going to be eventually like more reporting systems and moderation that are going to exist as we open up the opportunities to communicate and express. And like also people create weird things, you know what I mean, as they're customizing their characters or shirts and things like that. So how do we create that kind of safe, unoffensive space for people?
Yeah, no, it's important. And Sunny and I have talked a little bit about like I one of the things I find very interesting, and I've gotten sucked down this rabbit hole a time or two on TikTok, is girl gamers on like Call of Duty, right? Those kinds of games. And it's what you'll have is it's a split screen on TikTok where you can see the girl gamer and she's playing, and then you can see her playing, her actual play, right? And the atrocious things that are said to girl gamers who play those kinds of games. I mean, they all these boys will always call them fat. They will always say they're ugly. They'll tell them how terrible they are. And the girls who do this, like on TikTok, they annihilate every time.
Love it.
I mean, they cut down. And what happens is often the boys will just bail out in the middle of the game because they don't want to play with someone who's beating them. Yeah. They will tell them to go make me a sandwich. Like, you probably have to play video games because you don't have any friends because you're fat and ugly. Like the things that these girls are putting them on blast.
Yeah.
And then they're absolutely kicking their asses, right? Which makes it even fun. But what's been really interesting is that the games have had to try to now respond. Yeah. Because these girls are like, I like to play your game, but I'm going to show you what happens when I play.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said for being like, I'm going to hold this group of people accountable. Like I should get to play too. And most of these are young women who have played since they were really were girls. And now they are young women who are very good at the game and have earned their way into these communities and into these spaces to play. And then the men, as soon as they realize what's interesting is they'll play. As soon as they realize it's a woman, they start. And it's just noise the whole time. And I find that, I mean, it's like the game should have some accountability when these girls these young women hold them accountable. Yeah. And it's been really fascinating to watch and see like, oh, this thing that I thought it should be cool. In my mind, it should be cool that she shows up and can play, right? At their level. But instead they're like, they resent it. This, and not all, obviously, but some. And I think there's some real room for some thought about that.
Agreed. Yeah. I think it's starting. I think there's still more work. There's a ton more work to be ahead, but I agree. I mean, it is the segment of women playing is just growing, and we need to, I mean, if anything, from a business perspective, like they're customers too. And so we need to kind of also, I just want us to change the viewpoint and the culture, right? Like it doesn't need to be so toxic. And it's just like, how do we fight that toxicity all around? Yeah. Because there is the safety of anonymity behind some of your gamer tags, but that can only keep you safe for so long, right? Like you still need to can you be a decent human being should not be a question.
Like, how foul can you be shouldn't be the game you're playing.
Yeah. Right? Be a good human.
No, No, but I do think that what you just said is right. And I think as product people, we have to keep in mind that often, I know that there have been times when I have sort of forgotten, like, because you're just like focused on like, this is my demographic, this is what I'm doing, this is what's happening. And I remember being at Amazon and realizing that it was like a dude show. Basically, all these men had built this whole environment in Amazon, but the primary purchaser at Amazon was a woman between 35 and 50. And yet not everything was tuned to that woman. It was tuned to men. And I'm like, but they're not the ones buying anything. Right. And they do. And the thing is, in travel is the same. Like when I went into the travel industry, I was like, oh shit, we've been designing travel in a certain way, but women are the primary purchasers of holiday trips for their families and for themselves. They are the person who makes the decision and who spends the money. So you need to design it in a way that women will engage. And it's like, it's like the data that says if you have a woman on your board, you make 20, and in your leadership team, you make 25% more revenue. Why are we still not doing this? Why are we so dumb that we're like, we don't need a woman on the board. Okay, we'll just throw money your way then.
Yeah.
Because the data says you'll make more money.
I think the other part to that is like, don't just put a woman on the board and then like not let her be fully there. Check, got a woman. You have to make space for people to lead authentically and contribute authentically. Yeah. And if you just stick someone on the board and don't allow for them to be there, then they're going to hate you and the space, and it's not going to do you any good, right? There's a difference between like creating the space for someone that leads differently or communicates differently.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Yeah. Super, super interesting. Okay. Shall we lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. So let's start with, what are some companies or games, company, entertainment kind of companies that you really admire or love? Sunny, you go first.
Yeah, so for me, Take-Two Games, they did a game called Monument Valley a few years ago. I love both their games, and they had a third one called Assemble with Care. And for me, I think I just love especially with the Assemble for Care, there's an emotional piece to it, where people would bring their broken objects. It'd be like a tape recorder of like a loved one that they wanted fixed, and like you would go and fix the tape recorder and put things together. So it was a puzzle piece, but there was definitely an emotional element to it. So that's kind of the developer and the games that have really kind of resonated with me.
I love it.
Marilyn, about you? Nobody judge, please. But I was a rampant Pokemon Go player years and years and years ago. And in 2019, I deleted it off my phone because I was spending so much money on this stupid game. I was like single-handedly keeping them afloat. But then the other weekend, for some reason, it came up when we were on our way back from a vacation. And I was like, I wonder if I can still log in. I am back to obsessed. And I'm not the only person. Weirdly, I have run into like 3 or 4 other people who are playing this game. And so I don't know if we're like getting a little Pokemon resurgence or something, but yeah, I'm obsessed.
I think it does I think it kind of does waves, right? Like it has these little peaks.
Know.
It never just goes away. It's like it has peaks and valleys.
Totally. No pun intended. It still has legs. My husband and my son were out like for 4 hours yesterday for an event.
Gotta hatch those eggs, man. Gotta get your steps in.
Totally.
It's so funny. It's like unrelated but funny. I had some friends visiting from Seattle. They actually have been living in Sweden, and they were visiting, and it was the couple and their little boy who I'd only ever seen him as a baby, and so he's like, I think he's 7 or 8. All through breakfast, he regaled me with he's in one of these games where they're actually farming and like they cultivate crops and they do all this stuff, and he's just telling me all about it, and I'm like, and of course the aunt in me is like, really? Like I'm totally engaged, and they were like, really into this? And I'm, well, not at all. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. But he's like, and then you get a super gold star and it makes a rain happen. And then the rain, and I'm like, wow. Like, and I was just like, but he was so into it. And they were like, do you know what he's talking about? Like, no, I don't have to know what he's talking about to be excited for him. Like, he loves it. Right. But I think that's how I felt like Pokemon was with my nephews. Like I was like, oh my God, what? You have a what? Like I didn't know what he was talking about ever. Like, but you just have to be really excited. So Marilyn, I can be your auntie if you need me to be excited.
You'd be really excited for me. The problem is, like, so many of the things now require friends to like trade into stuff, and I have no friends that are playing this. So
you need to meet some kids that will play with you.
I do. But the other nice thing is when I stick my Pokemon to battle in a gym, they're there for like 2 days because no one's fighting them.
That's so funny. I'm a little tiny bit controlled by Duolingo right now. Like, it controls my life, because should I ever have a freeze out week in my week, I feel devastated. Like, I can't believe I didn't. Last night, I hadn't done my Duolingo for the day, and it was 11:30. And the little app icon was like, sad Duo. And I was all, oh God, I've got to make him happy again.
With the tear coming down.
He's like, oh no, I've only got 28 minutes to do a lesson that's going to take me 3. So calm down.
That owl is very emotionally manipulative.
It's very manipulative. I'm very sucked in. And like, if I'm playing with friends, if we're doing a challenge and I don't feel like I'm holding up my end of the bargain, I will just sit and play for like an hour so that I can do my half of the quest. And I'm like, also, I have a life. Like, what am I doing? But I got sucked in. But today when the housekeeper came, I could speak Spanish to her. She was new housekeeper.
Oh, nice.
So that felt good. I felt confident I could do it. All right. So last lightning round question. Best favorite old school game, like from when we were kids. Oh, Sunny's got it. She was like, yes, confidently.
Yes.
Tell us.
Yes, because I can already see myself, because we used to have like a little closet underneath the stairs, like a Harry Potter room. And I would close the door, it'd be completely dark. And my parents got me this mini arcade machine with Frogger on it. And I would spend hours playing Frogger until I broke the dang thing. And like that was my childhood memory for sure.
Frogger is the bomb. Frogger is the bomb.
Yes,
my husband and I will go in any arcade we can find, and I'm always looking for Time Crisis.
So I'm going to go to Cardiff for the weekend when my sister's here, and one of my friends was like, "You have to go to the arcades in Cardiff. There's a whole row of them in there." And I'm like, "Sign me up. We're in." Like,
like our big jam is pinball, right? So like Stern pinball all day long, but they're not classic. So, but I'm a huge pinball fan. But anytime I walk into an arcade, it's Time Crisis. Like, give me that gun. There's a lot of other shooting games that are proxy, but they're not the same.
Yeah. I loved this game called Barnstorming.
Okay.
And you flew a plane, and it was Atari, and you flew a plane, and you regularly, like, you had all these different things you were trying to achieve, but every so often you had to fly directly through a barn. So and if you didn't, you would just crash into it, like, and then your plane would be gone and you'd have to start all over again. But you had to have like this very precise, you could see it at different angles, and you had this very precise ability to go straight. And sometimes it wasn't shaped the same, and you had to tilt your wings. And I was like queen of the crop dusters. So that was my other favorite game. And we used to tease my mother because we had a ColecoVision that had an Atari adapter. That's how cool we were. And my mother would play. The only thing she ever played was Donkey Kong, and she would play at night when we thought we were asleep. And we would all sit in the dark and watch her play, because she would have the controller and she would move her body with the controller. And she would like jump.
So
she would talk to it, jump. And so my mother was definitely in her 50s playing Donkey Kong in the dark at night when her kids went to bed. So I love thinking about that she was like hanging out in the dark trying to make it happen. She might have been in her 50s. She's probably in her mid to late 40s, but yeah, it was pretty funny. So
cool.
Very cool. There were a lot of cool games back then, but yeah, I loved Frogger. I mean, can't go wrong with Frogger. And I loved Miss Pac-Man. That was the other thing.
Yes,
I don't
that's
know. And I don't ever know. I sometimes wonder why I loved Miss Pac-Man and not regular Pac-Man, because it's the same game, right? It's just the
she
bow.
moved different, and the bow was all of it. Like the bow made
Yeah.
a huge
Oh,
difference.
exactly. Well, Sunny, thank you for joining us and hanging
Oh,
out with
thank
us.
you. It
It was
was a
so much
pleasure.
fun.
Thank you so much.
It was so fun to talk to you and to hear about your experience, which I think for a lot of people that watch will be cool to listen to and unique and different than some, and really tied into what we do as product people. So I love it. So thanks for joining us.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, then, everyone, we will see you soon on another episode, and we'll see you down the road. Bye.
Bye.